You're welcome back, and we've got all the papers splayed out before us. I'll tell you who else is also splayed out before us. It's good old Norvan Akweheford from the Joy Business team. Not exactly splayed, more poised. Nice to see you, brother.
Nice to see you, my good friend Kojo.
Excellent.
How are you today?
Not bad, not bad. Managing.
It's a Friday.
But it is a special occasion, and we know that because you're here. You join us on special occasions. So today, of course, we're seeing the launch of the policy that will now govern all activity in small-scale mining sector of Ghana.
Sure.
Of course, this is sort of a climax of all the work that this committee has been doing over the period, and we'll be bringing you more live from the Accra International Conference Center as that event unfolds. But not before we bring you all the best bits from the newspapers. I have the Ghanaian Times, the Finder, and then perhaps I'll touch on what's in the Dispatch as well. And you have?
I have the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide this morning, and Weekend Today.
All right. So I'll run through the headlines. So in fact, we'll run through the headlines first, and then we'll come back and pick a couple of stories to touch on. In the Ghanaian Times, the banner headline says, Yana's funerals take off. Well, at least one of them has taken off. The other one is scheduled for next year. But then it continues, as Northern Regional Minister hands over keys to Old Bewa Palace. Also on the front page, government targets e-services to improve efficiency, and that's attributed to the Minister of Communication, Mrs. Ursula Owusu Ekufo. Also, man nabbed over police enlistment scam. On the back page of the Ghanaian Times, Ghana close to nuclear energy generation. Some exciting news there. Also, Tema Beach Road gets facelift. That does it for the Times. I have the Finder. Big banner headline in yellow as usual. Doctor defends drones project, condemns sensationalism and party politics debate. Also, ADB seeks approval to raise 383 million Ghana cedis for recapitalization. Digitalization agenda here to stay, according to the communications minister. And New Times Corporation staff fight MD's tenure extension plans, according to the Finder this morning. Finally, on the front page, First Lady mobilizes community support for girls' empowerment. First Lady doing quite a lot in the gender space. And we also have the Daily Dispatch this morning. Big picture of the ever-present drones. You can't flip a page of news content without seeing a picture of a drone these days. Yes. There is one on the front page of the Dispatch today. 15 drone deliveries a month will cost $11,000, according to this story. Also, government's handling of RTI bill, deeply embarrassing. And that is what the Media Foundation for West Africa has to say about the matter. Also on the front page, January 7 to be a public holiday if. And Ayawaso by-election, it's Edward Kufuor. I've noticed for the past week that the Daily Dispatch has been spelling by in the by-election with an E on the end. For young people watching, the correct spelling of by-election, the by at the beginning is BY. Okay, by-election. So it's an election that's being held alongside the normal election calendar. By-election, okay? Not by as in goodbye. Okay, also December 27 referendum on new regions, full story on page 12. I think that covers everything. Oh, there's one more on the back. I have not made any comments about the National Cathedral. Bishop Ajinasare goes to pains to clarify. And I think that does it for the Daily Dispatch. Novan?
Okay, so we'll take you to the Daily Graphic this morning. And on the front page of it, the lead story has pictures of Alban Bagbin, Joshua Alabi, and Ekospio Gabra. These are presidential aspirants for the National Democratic Congress. And the story is reduce filing fee to 150,000 Ghana cedis. 6 NDC aspirants demand. Also on the front page, government introduces Founders Constitution Days to Parliament as new holidays. Interesting. You should read that stories. You can find that, I think, on page 20. And then you have Rose Minister, cut sword for single carriageway in Tema. And we will respect peace process in Dagbon. Abudu family pledges. And of course, we know that the funeral of one of the Yanas began yesterday. And then you have the Man Kralo of Pram Pram killed. And that's the front page of it. And you go to the back page of the same paper. Wa Regional Hospital runs out of anti-snake venom. I mean, that's disheartening to know that, especially when you know you have snakes around the area. We are in the dry season, and so we hope that the Ghana Health Service will do us the honest to ensure they send that. And then the Takoradi Mall has opened, and you have the First Lady's picture at the back page there, doing quite a lot of work. At the center spread of this same paper, you have government implementing e-services to ensure efficient delivery, coming from the communications minister there. Now, let's pick the daily guide. So the daily guide on the front page has a picture of former President Kufuor, and it reads in their headline, Kufuor rejects MP ministers' calls for debate. And so he calls for debate. I mean, he feels that MPs becoming ministers is quite, it disturbs government work, it disturbs parliament's work. And so we need to have a debate on that and remove that 60% of your cabinet or ministers must be MPs. That is what our constitution says. And the former president that thinks that we need to debate that and then find a lasting solution to that, so we can have all the members of parliament attend parliamentary proceedings. It's very important. 3 holidays scrapped for 2 new ones. That's on the front page of the daily guide. Also, Pram Pram chief gunned down. And then Zimbabwean woman busted with cocaine at the Koduka International Airport. So you see what is happening at our airport. Great work by the guys there, ensuring that these things will not slip through over there. School feeding boss sacked. Dr. Kwame Edu Insia is supposed to be the boss for school feeding. We are told that he's been sacked. And that's it for the daily guide. And the very last one that I have, Weekend Today, Truth and Enlightenment. That's supposed to be their motto. And you have a picture of a lady in what in local language we call duku. And it says fabulous head wraps, duku styles. I mean, this is just one of the styles that you can see. So for you, the ladies who are watching, I mean, there are more of that in the paper. You can get a copy and then you learn how to do these things. And you still have the picture of the lady who was busted. That's the Zimbabwean lady who was busted with the cocaine. It's actually 7.5 kg. You know, that's the weight of what she had. And then Phil takes Phil takes over Odoko. I mean, Odoko just here, Dakuman, Odoko. Yeah. Then you're moving to Sakaman. Then you can move on to Malam Junction. We're told that Odoko has too much filth in that area.
Well, I wish that was a surprise, but it's not. Nice picture of that duku, by the way.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
It's timely, isn't it? You know, it's Friday. The funerals and weddings are going to kick off from tomorrow. So
a lot of engagements.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So you might as well go and steal some duku styles from
the Weekend Today.
All right. Any particular story you want us to start off with?
I would want to start with the daily graphic story. And then, you know, this NDC aspirants issue comes. We start with 400,000. They got the Council of Elders to reduce this amount. Today, we're told that 8 out of this, 8 people who have actually picked the nomination forms, 6 out of them are still asking for a reduction again from the 300,000 that they got after the Council of Elders intervened and, you know, got them to reduce it to that amount. And the story says that 6 out of 8 flag bearer aspirants of the National Democratic Congress who picked nomination forms to contest the primary of the party have petitioned the party's Council of Elders to further reduce the filing fee from 300,000 to 150,000. Remember that you had to pay a filing, a picking up nomination was 20,000, and then they're saying that you need to pay 300,000 when you are ready to submit. We understand Joshua Labik says is it Monday or Tuesday he will be submitting because he's finished getting all the, you know, signatories in all the wards and it's the constituencies that the party has. And if he's also part of these people, because the 6 aspirants, we are told, who constitute themselves into the forum of NDC presidential aspirants are Alban Babin, Ekospio Gabra, Sylvester Mensah, Mr. Gusitano, Alhaji Nuruddin Idrisu, and Professor Joshua Alabi. 2 other aspirants who already picked forms, which is John Dramani Mahama, former president, and Mr. Stephen Atubiga. For them, they are not asking for any reduction. Yeah. They think that they are okay. But these people think that we still, and they are raising issues of transparency, ensuring fairness, and talking about their social democratic orientation. And I don't know, if the Council of Elders agreed to the 300,000, I don't know what more they can do at this point, because the party leadership keeps saying that they need money to run the party.
I mean, I've heard both arguments on this. And what the party has said, or what we've heard Sir Johnson Asidun Kitia say by way of explanation, is just what you just said, that look, we need money. And this is how we intend to fund, at least in part, the process through which we're going to choose our flag bearer.
Yep.
It's expensive, it's not cheap. Even the Electoral Commission will pay, they will have to pay the Electoral Commission about 3 million cedis just for the role they will play.
That's a lot of money.
Indeed, indeed. Then, of course, you have to think about the delegates and, you know, all the logistics and mobilization.
Printing of ballot papers.
Indeed, indeed.
You know, and sending people around.
So let's not mince words. It's not cheap to run any kind of electoral process. So that is the argument of the party as to why the fees should be at that level. Is it 350,000 at the moment?
No, it's not 300,000.
300,000 at the moment.
Yes, it used to be 400. They took off 100.
Yeah.
You know.
So this is their argument. Okay, it costs money. We have to pay it. They add another point. They say, if you want to be flag bearer, you ought to be able to demonstrate your ability to raise money. Yeah. So, what better way of demonstrating that ability than raising the money for your filing fee? So that's their argument. Now, the candidates and some observers, or the aspirants and some observers, have another argument. They say, you're a political party. This election is part of your processes that you must go through every 4 years. Why are you suggesting that you can't afford it? In the same way that you're saying that if a flag bearer or an aspirant wants to prove his mettle, he ought to be able to raise the money for his filing fee. Well, if a political party wants to be a political party, it ought to be able to afford its own processes, including the election of its flag
especially
bearer.
when members are expected to pay dues.
Indeed. So that's the other side of it. If what you're saying is that raising money is a proof of mettle, then NDC, where is your mettle?
But some of them also believe that, listen, I would show my mettle to raise funding when I am the flag bearer of the party. Because I know I can't, but let's not make this too expensive.
Because all they are doing is throwing their names in the hat, or throwing their hat in the ring, whichever metaphor you want to use, for the opportunity to be the flag bearer. Okay, that's all they are asking for.
Yes.
So if you monetize even that process, and then when they become flag bearer too, they also have to raise money for an election. So what you're doing is you are putting too many levels in the political process where the qualifier is money. And it is ironic to see a social democratic party taking such a stand.
Yes, that brings to the point where some of them have also said that, listen, if you do this, you send the wrong signals to the electorate. That's the general electorate in the country. Because if we have to raise these funds, the question always remains, how are we going to compensate those people we're going to raise these monies from? And it means that when you come to power, you have to find means to close those holes that you've created or you've taken monies from. And these are things that some suggest or allege could lead to corruption, because then you might not even use proper processes in awarding contracts. Indeed. And ensuring that the process becomes fair for everybody, so that if even you belong to my party and you are not cut for the job, we will tell you, sorry, we can't give it to you, we'll give it to Mr. B from the next place, because we believe that he's giving us value for money and he will do a quality job.
Indeed. Now, finally, I don't want to even touch on the conspiracy theories that this is being done just to favor one particular candidate.
Well,
race.
I'm
not going to touch on that, but rather I want to deal with the reasons that the party themselves have admitted to.
Yes.
And one of them is that, look, you need to prove that you are presidential material. But I thought that their processes, their constitution already provides for a means by which people at that level seeking to be flag bearers can prove their mettle. And that is through proving their popularity with the collection of signatures.
Exactly.
First
point.
Yes, not money, because that comes later. You raise funds for a campaign as a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
That's the responsibility of fundraising that you have.
Yeah.
But not as an aspirant. That is a shock to me.
I throw a 300,000 at you or a 400,000 at you, and I don't become the flag bearer. I've lost that money.
Yes,
it's gone.
Yes, indeed. But
because at the end of the day, even if they are just two people, just one person will be selected. And that person has all the power to decide, in consultation with the party leadership and council of elders, who becomes his running mate.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there are quite a number of other stories here that are all of interest to me. I think I'll mention very quickly this one about the doctor defending the drones project. It's in the Finder newspaper. The doctor, according to the headline, is condemning sensationalism, party politics, and the party politics debate. Yeah. But I note that the first paragraph of the story might not exactly indicate defense on the part of the doctor. So I'll read it to you. It says, and I quote, "A medical officer and public health advocate has called on all stakeholders to discuss the merits of the drone medical supplies project, devoid of sensationalism and party politics." So his name is Dr. Pakwesi Blankson, but it appears that all he's calling for is for the politics to be put aside.
Yes.
Just discuss it on its merits.
Exactly.
I don't know whether that is a defense of the project.
It's because, I mean, and I'm looking at it with a lens where, if you're an editor and then you look, you've seen what the position of the Ghana Medical Association itself has been. That's the body which the same doctor belongs to.
Yeah.
And they have said that let's suspend it, let's talk about it again, let's take a look at it. You remember when the Deputy Information Minister, Pius Hajide, came and said that, look, we thought that these people agreed to this and they believed in the system. That is why, for which they had to have a meeting with the vice president. Yeah. And after that meeting, they came and said, okay, we're going to have all those consultations, but the issue of suspension is not what we're going to go by, but we will do all those consultations.
Right.
But you see, the question is, this drones, do we need it? If you ask me, I say yes. I say yes and no. What has been the system in Rwanda or Kenya or those other countries who have deployed this? Some have said, listen, we should, like Imani, why don't we do pilot first? Why are we just going straight to, implementing the thing in full? Why don't we pilot, see how that would be? Because if you go to Kenya or this Rwanda where these things are being done, it's not only in lifting blood. In fact, they use it also in sending certain drugs that if they have to, let's say a surgery needs to go on, and then a drug that they need is not around, they will have to. You remember the documentary Manasseh, gave us yesterday? In part of it, we're told that they could not perform a surgery on the young boy because they didn't have oxygen. Can you imagine? They had to wait for, I think, about 3 days or a week or something. Can you imagine that they were supposed to do the surgery? And then we said, okay, we have oxygen, let's say, in Confanoche, and we could use the drone to lift it and bring it so you can still go ahead with the surgery on the date and time you have set.
Yeah.
That was possible. So let's move away from just the issue of the blood, and that's just my opinion. I mean, I think that it could be used in doing other things within the health system. And so let's look at it holistically and see how we go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I agree with you on one thing, that it is potentially a useful thing.
Yeah.
Potentially a useful thing.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
You've given examples of countries that have done it and have done it successfully. I want to remind us of our own context, because that is what you must measure the usefulness of this new idea within. And in our context, there are a couple of things that occur to me. The first one is that it's not that drones are bad. I think the question is this the time for them? First of all, are we at the time when what we need to make things better are drones? Or if we have whatever money it is we'll be spending on this, should it be spent on some other things, and then perhaps we roadmap our development in healthcare to the point where we know that, okay, perhaps a year from now we would have done A, B, and C, and at that point when we bring in drones, it'll be even more useful than if we bring it in today. So that's my question. Who made the decision about when this good idea should be introduced?
Okay.
Who made that decision? And is this the right decision? Is this point in our roadmap the right time for drones? And you see, the question is this. Yes, I know that they keep mentioning it in relation to blood. But also you are right, the distribution of medicines and equipment, life-saving equipment, is also an important role. So I want to take the two. First, the blood. Where is it? The blood that we are going to be flying around, where is it?
That's the question.
Yeah, we have such a massive shortage of blood. People are not donating blood. And blood has a shelf life. So even the few people who are donating blood, after a while, it's not even usable.
Yeah.
So we have a big problem there in terms of actual stock. Okay. So if you don't have it, and you are spending money distributing it, what's the idea?
What will you be distributing?
What will you be distributing?
Okay.
It's kind of like you want to travel to the US. You don't have a passport, you don't have a visa, you don't have a ticket.
But you say you're going.
The first thing you want to spend your money on is a weighing scale to weigh your suitcase.
Can you imagine?
Now, it's not that a weighing scale to weigh your suitcase is useless. It's useful. But if you have money, what do you want to spend it on first? Which of the things you need in order to get to the US is more of a priority for you to spend money on? And it's not like a weighing scale will break the bank. It's not that expensive. Kind of like this project, you know, this drone project. It's not billions of dollars, but it's money.
Yeah, Kojo, I think that the issue has also been the cost. That's one of the big issues as far as the drones project is concerned. Many people, the civil society groups, the doctors themselves, are looking at the cost, and some feel that we still can do this project at a lesser cost. So let's take a look at it again. But I still keep reminding people, Kratchi is one town which is beyond, the Volta Lake. Now, overseas, in the somewhere northern region, also another town you need to cross, a river. In Zulezu, our own in Zulezu, you need to go through the river before you get there. So they have an emergency, whether blood or medicine that they need. What do we do? Because the number of people who are dying in these places, it will shock you. And sometimes it's just some medicine or this same blood we're talking about. I would also add that let's think about ensuring that all the regional hospitals are resourced and they have good blood banks. So if by now various regional hospitals, Efie Nkwanta, Kumasi, and all those places don't have very good blood banks, then we have a problem. Even the district hospitals. Let's take a look at it. Then we can move into the area of the chief compounds and all that. And I think that if we look at it.
So, that's the question, egg and chicken. So which should we do first? Should we be resourcing our regional hospitals first before we then employ the drones to be the distributing method? Or do we buy the drones now and then go backwards to try and stock the blood banks and equip the regional hospitals? So I guess that's the question. Now the second half of the issue is to do with medical supplies and medicines. And over there's just one thing that is in my mind. Is there going to be a central decision-making body to determine priority? So if, let's say, Kolebu and 37 both are in need of some medical equipment. At Kolebu, the need is for a life-saving surgery. At 37, it's for some cosmetic surgery. But it's still the same device that is needed. Who is going to determine if there's just one device nearby?
Oh.
Who is going to determine which hospital it goes to? Or will it be whoever ordered it first? So if 37 ordered it for the cosmetic surgery first, they will get it before the Kolebu one, that is life and death.
Life and death.
Who is making those decisions?
We need to take a look at all that.
You understand? So you see, it's not just a question about is this useful or is it not useful. That's political.
Yeah.
It's a question about practical application.
I think that's what the doctor is asking for. Let's really take a look at it.
So yeah, I mean, it's not about defending the drone system or you know, offending it. It's just about just being practical and, you know, commonsensical about the discussion.
Okay, so we go to the daily guide and we're looking at this all-important story. Kufuor rejects MP, ministers and calls for debate. And the story is the former president, John Ejekum Kufuor, has stoked fresh debate over appropriateness of the system that allows the president to appoint majority of his ministers from parliament. He called for discussions on the constitutional provision that allows the appointment of the majority of ministers from parliament, saying the country is the big loser for it. I agree. 100%. Yeah. Because over the years, I have said, and this is the reason why you don't have a lot of the MPs going to parliament. And it doesn't even make them independent. Because you see, if you are a minister, you swear to always uphold the president's vision and whatever he wants to do. So even if you disagree, you cannot go and sit in parliament and vote against it. Because already we have this winner takes it all kind of politics in this country, and that is not helping us. We need to have MPs that will be independent minded, like I think I recall the guy who used to come from, is it somewhere in the central region? I've seen that old man. I've just forgotten his name. When I remember, I will just mention it. He looked, even though he belonged to the MPP at the time, he was a lone, you know, guy who insisted that a lot of the times he was going to go his way. And I think that this thing must be looked at and allow the president to pick his ministers from wherever he wants to pick them from, and let's have members of parliament go do the business of parliament so they don't leave parliament.
You know, I have a radical suggestion actually. If we're going to revisit that constitutional provision, maybe we should be asking ourselves if we can actually ban the president from picking ministers from parliament.
We should
actually ban him from doing it.
We should just scrap it off.
Because you see, you have to ask yourself this. We designed a system of government where we have checks and balances. We have 3 estates, or well, 4 estates if you add the media. What was the thinking behind making the presidency, forcing the presidency to pick 60% of the executive arm of government. From the legislative arm?
It's crazy. It's not
what was the thinking?
It's not right.
How do you check each other?
Yeah, that's why we see what we see all the time.
Anyway, all right. Let's have a quick look at what's online, and there's quite a bit on myjoyonline.com this morning. Starting with this story. Not this one. All right. We'll start with the story of city construction. Oh, actually, no, we won't. We'll start with the killing of the Pram Mankralo, gunned down by unknown assailants in Apollonia, which is in the Pon Katamanso municipality of Greater Accra region. Very troubling story there. Also, ASEC, $51.3 million saving on a merry deal, commendable. That's what the energy think tank is saying. City Construction and Properties Awards launched to promote building excellence. Yeah, okay. Gbewa Palace gates open as Abudus perform funeral for Overlord. So that's the first of 2 funerals to be performed. Also, government working on law to improve cybersecurity environment. That's important, and that's being said by the Communication Minister. Julian Kingsley Opuni appointed new Fidelity Bank Managing Director. Congratulations to Mr. Opuni. Also on myjoyonline.com, Trump, I never directed Michael Cohen to break the law. Yeah. And finally, actually not finally, but also, National Chief Imam commends and praise for JoyNews' Latif Idrisu. That's a wonderful, heartwarming story there. Also on myjoyonline.com, NCA warns defaulting radio stations to settle authorization fees. Also, some interesting features. Doctors and nurses in rampant extortion at Tamale Hospital. That's been uncovered by Joy News. So go there to myjoyonline.com and excite yourself with all the good work that our journalists have done. Now, coming up is sports, but don't forget, today we're coming to you live from the Accra International Conference Center. We will be bringing you every single moment of the launch of the policy to govern small-scale mining here in Ghana. This has been put together by the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. Stay tuned for that fascinating detail. But before that, thank you so much, Novan, for making the time to be with us. Always a pleasure. Benedict and the team are poised with sports after this.